Hey, what's up, Bulldogs? John Sonmez here from BulldogMindset.com. And today I have with us a guest who I met at FinCon. If you guys saw, I spoke at FinCon and I did a talk over there. I did a video on this. Maybe we'll put a link in the description or so where it was a shirtless video of FinCon review. I did that. I did that right after a run, so I got a lot of weird comments on that. It was kind of weird, but anyway, when I was at FinCon, they paired us up with like a mentor-mentee thing, and the person I got paired up with, I have here David, and he has a company called Military to Millionaire. And I was fascinated by what he's doing. I think it's really awesome. So I wanted to get him on the channel to talk about what he's doing. I know a lot of you either you come from a military background or some kind of background. I was going to say low income, but I don't want to just equate but I don't know, military people are proud of being low income. They're proud of having to live by limited means, so I guess that's not that much difficult. But if you have some kind of limited means, you can still, you don't have to be, I guess what I'm saying is you don't have to be a software developer making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to invest in real estate, to make money, to become a millionaire. So with that long intro, welcome, David.
Thanks, brother. It's good to chat again. So yeah, that's really how it is. So the channel is basically, as you said, I guess we're kind of proud of what the low income. So there's this mindset in the military of like, we don't make any money. And the reality is that we're just terrible with our money, right? Like Harleys and Mustangs and Camaros and guns and this and tattoos. And we'll come back from deployment. Yeah. Don't even. And somehow that coincides with marriage, which is just another crazy topic. But yeah, so we make these terrible decisions, and then we blame how much money we make. And it's the reality is like, as coming out of high school, like in the military, there's not really a better job that I can think of for me, right? I'm 18, I come out of the military, I have no experience with money, and now I get a 30 days paid vacation job that's salary with a place to live, food allowance, clothing allowance. Like you could literally just like move into the military and basically live for free, with the exception of whatever beer and tattoos you buy for your first 4 years. And then you come out and you're totally set up. But the problem is that like, we don't do that. I left the military. I didn't leave the military, but after 4 years, I had nothing to show for it other than tattoos and cars and whatever. So we're trying to help defeat that mindset and show people, like, open the door to wealth creation and different avenues that you can do that through the military. So it's pretty cool. And then, like you said, that applies to working class and everything. So.
Yeah, that really resonated with me. I mean, my dad was Air Force growing up, so I grew up on military bases and whatnot, and he was enlisted, so we weren't officers, we didn't have the bigger means, and there was always this kind of like like kind of very limited thinking, I think. And so, in fact, I remember when I first bought my first real estate, I bought this townhouse. I remember getting on the phone with my dad, and he, that it was just out of his realm of, just like, you don't do this. Like, you're taking a big risk here. Like, he was just like chewing my ass out. He's like, almost ready to disown me for buying real estate. But it was, it was because of that mindset that I think is so prevalent, I think, in the military, but also I think a lot of like retail workers, a lot of people that they don't realize that, in fact, I do some videos on this channel where I talk about, investing in real estate and like, buying a house a year, and people are like, oh yeah, right. Pfft, you could buy a house a year. Yeah, maybe if you're rich. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, if you can, there's a lot of ways to do this, but most people could save up like $5,000 or $10,000 in a year and use that as a down payment, or or something like that. So yeah, to convince the naysayers, of what I'm saying, unless you disagree. But yeah, I'd like to hear your take on it.
Yeah, so I currently we own 53 rental units, and I have never paid more than 6% down on a property. And so for the naysayers, my partner and I just bought a $2.8 million mixed use commercial building with only $150,000. Now, not to say that $150,000 isn't much, but if you do the math on that, that's like what, $5,000 down on a $100,000 property or whatever. I mean, it's pretty solid return. And there's ways to do it where you can get even more creative than that. I mean, I've been able to get lower down payments than that on properties by using creative financing. So seller financing, where you're saying, hey, I really like your apartment and you own it free and clear.
Yeah.
How about instead of getting a bank involved, I just make a monthly payment to you, and when we're paid up, we're paid up. And so I've got this negotiation. I send a check in the mail. I own the property, and that's that. It's like buying a car via monthly payments with no down payment. And there's ways to do that. And then there's obviously the FHA loan, where if it's your primary residence, you're only paying 3.5% down. So you would only need $3,500 to buy a $100,000 home. And then there's I think the biggest issue is not that people don't make enough money, as we've talked about. It's that people spend every penny they make, and they think their income's the problem, but the reality is their expenses are the problem. I mean, there's nations out there where people make $1 an hour, and they are living quite better than whoever. And I don't know. It's all a mentality thing. So in the military, I do not by any chance or by any means make a $1 million salary, but we save over 40% of our income, and that allows us to do a whole bunch of other things. So
yeah, and I like that. I mean, that's the thing is like you can always, there's great tools out there too. Like one of them I always tell people is YNAB. You need a budget, and you can if you start actually figuring out what you really actually need, and and I've helped a lot of people too, where I'm like, look, hey, guess what? If you want to save money, you can't go out to eat. Beans, eggs, rice, cheap shit. Like you could, I mean, if you got to do ramen, that's fine. It's not as healthy, but I mean, beans, eggs, rice, cheap, right? Like you can live off of that. You're getting plenty of protein. You're getting plenty of, and you save a bundle of money. You can move in with a roommate. I mean, there's a lot of ways to cut those expenses down, but people don't want to do it. They don't want to make the sacrifice. So they'd rather say, oh, I'm not making enough money. But I had a friend actually who owns a payday loan company, and it was funny. I was like, oh man, like those are those loans where it's like you get a loan for like a week or two and like ridiculous interest rates, right? And I was like, oh man, you must have just like some low class people that use this service, right? And he's like, not exactly. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, I mean, how you get a payday loan, right? You got to be like broke as shit. He's like, no. My best customers are doctors, lawyers. I'm like, what? He's like, no. These guys, like they started out their lives living above their means. And once you're living above your means, when you make more money, you still live above your means. And so they are living paycheck to paycheck. They're literally making $200,000 a year, living paycheck to paycheck. So
yeah, it's mind-boggling. And you're right. Like if you buy that house because you think you can afford it, you're stuck in that payment. And those are the guys. The ironic thing is, like, those are the guys who get hit when the market goes down, right? When San Diego goes and loses 50% of its real estate value, the guy with the $3 million home he can't pay a mortgage on is the guy who takes the hardest hit. It's not the guy who bought the $300,000 home on, within his means. And so it's like you're just perpetuating this cycle of. It's kind of why they talk about like lottery winners always, like there's some absurd statistic, like 2/3 of them lose it all within 5 years, because it's a mindset. If you're not good with money, you're not going to become good with money just because someone gave you a lot of it.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, so the one thing I think maybe we could sidetrack here, and then we'll come. I think another question, but the seller financing. This is one that I think I get a lot of pushback on. And it's interesting because I've been in a situation now, like I'm investing actively, but I've got some paid off properties. Like if I were selling a property and seller financing actually makes sense to me. A lot of people say, oh, no one's going to do that. But the thing is, like, if I'm in the highest tax bracket that I can be in, and you offer me seller financing, I can basically like mitigate my tax. Like if I sell that whole property and get all the cash right away, I'm going to pay a ridiculous amount of taxes. But if I have that money coming to me over years, months and years at a time, it's actually a big tax advantage to me. So a lot of people will actually do it. What's your experience with, with doing the seller financing? Like, again, like I said, most people are like, oh, no, no one would ever do that. How difficult or easy or what, how do you go about doing these?
So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll write I live in a small enough market that I can do like verbal offers. My agent can pick up the phone and say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, we'll do X, Y, or Z. And so say a property is $100,000 property, I might say, hey, I'll give you 50,000 cash, 70,000 seller financed, or I'll say, yeah, 50,000 cash, 75,000 seller financing, or 100,000, but it's got to be done, I don't know, conventional or whatever. And you set it up to where it's like there's different options, and you're paying more based on which loan you most prefer, I suppose. It's just different methodologies, but I've really had a lot of people that are open to it, and there's a couple of reasons. Like you said, the tax thing is huge. You're not paying capital gains tax. One of the other benefits is that, like, for elderly who are just looking to retire, you go from having a mortgage payment, from all these expenses to only a mortgage payment, and I'm sending you money for you to, still, like, to not have any responsibility with the property. So you could, in theory, make the exact same cash flow with no headaches. And then if I stop paying, you get the asset back. So whereas, if you bring a bank loan in and all of a sudden I stop making payments, the bank gets the property, you got your check already. But in this case, I could pay on a property for 10 years. And if I fail to pay, come through on it, the seller gets the house back, and now they turn around and sell it. So there's a lot of benefits to that, other than just taxes. So I found that a lot of people are open to it. I think the problem is people don't ask.
Yeah, exactly.
And the other great thing with seller financing, and this is like probably the most mind-boggling thing, is that it's 100% open to your negotiation. So you can do anything you want. And if they're cool with it. So for both of my loans that have seller financing involved, or one of them that's entirely, they're both commercial real estate, which is traditionally like at least 1.25% higher interest rates than residential. So right now you're looking at like 6% for a commercial loan, and they're both fixed rate at 4%. And so I bought this almost $3 million property, and I'm paying, and it's interest only for the first year, and it's 4% interest, and I'm paying like half of what I would have been paying monthly if I'd gotten a bank loan. And so, it's not traditional, so it's scary, but there's some great opportunities out there with it, because it allows for the human interaction and negotiation rather than the bank just saying no, which is
no, that makes a lot of sense, and it's true. Like, because you could do whatever you want. I mean, you can structure it however you want. There's no restrictions. So many people are stuck into the conventional Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loan thinking, and I want to back up for something that you said that I think a lot of people might not have caught. Which was that you, in your first example, you said that you might have a property that's worth 100,000, or that would sell for $100,000, and you're coming in and you're doing something like offering 50,000 cash, but then 70 or 75,000. So you're actually offering 125,000, like 25,000 over their asking price. But that's how you're. But to them, they're like, well, shit, if I do seller financing, to you, it's still a good deal, because, hey, you don't mind paying more if you're getting the financing on this thing. Is it, unless I misinterpreted or missed that point?
It really depends on the property. There are times where I will do 3 separate offers, and it'll be, hey, I'll give you 50,000 cash or 70,000, and it's either or. But there are times where, you can structure things to where, because what people don't think about is, so if you buy a house, so if you want to sell your house, even at, we'll do the 100,000 again, and I offer you 90,000 seller finance. If you structure it out and you show them like, hey, at 4% interest over the next 30 years, that 90,000 purchase will actually come out to like $130,000 that I'm paying you in interest.
Yeah.
And that'll kind of like people, oh man, that's awesome. And then, 5 years down the road, you refinance and they still got more than what you actually paid. So you can come in at full asking price and end up paying the same, or, maybe a penny or two more, but it's still, I don't know. I've just found that because you can tweak seller financing and how it looks, you can show people like, hey, if I keep this note for 30 years, it'll be $140,000 that I pay you with interest. And they love that and they go for it. And then in reality, you're purchasing it at 90. And if you only pay 5 years worth of interest and then refinance out of it, you only paid the asking price. So I don't know. There's a lot of different ways to mess with it, but and then sometimes I'll do, it'll be, hey, I'll give you 80,000 cash, or $90,000 this way, and just give them options for how they want to proceed with the sale. And I've actually found that people, if you throw in a lowball cash offer with some other offers, a lot of times people will take the lowball cash offer and you just save 20,000 on a total price, because they're like, oh, all the other options sound, difficult. Like,
Yeah.
okay, well, thanks for selling it to me for like 20,000 less, because it's less difficult for you.
Yeah.
Take it.
It's crazy. I mean, people do that though, right? And the same thing, I mean, heck, when people win the lottery, right? People take the cash, right? They win like $25 million lottery, and instead of getting it paid over 10 years or so, they'll take 15 million instead. Like, lose $10 million to get it now. Yeah. It's crazy, but yeah. So there's a lot of options there. So
and then they'll spend it immediately, and
exactly,
we won't even get into that.
So tell me how you got into this. This is something, again, like I said, so many people do not have this mindset, especially in the military. What made you think that this was even possible, that you could do this?
So I read a book that everybody and their mother has probably referenced at some point if they've gotten into investing, called Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
And so a friend handed it to me. It was like, here, you need to read this book. And I was like, dude, I'm a Marine. I hate reading. Reading's dumb, right? Yeah. And he was like, great. Well, you're also a recruiter, so you drive around in the freaking car all the time. How about you just listen to it? And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do that. And that guy totally changed my life, right? So I read the book, and then I read another book, and then I read another book, and within 3 months I had bought a duplex. Because one of the things I took away from Rich Dad Poor Dad was like, go do it, right? And that internal Marine part in me was like, yeah, which might have been way too much ego, but I was like, I've got to do this. If I don't do it right now, it's never going to happen. And so the duplex really wasn't the best investment I've ever made, but I still own it. It still makes about $100 a month.
Yeah.
I bought it with an FHA, and it was like the moment I did that and had proof of concept, it was like my just head was blown with, oh my goodness, that this could really be done. And then just more books, more networking. People, when they ask about getting started, is like, read a book, network, and meet some people, and then just go do it. If you do those 3 things, right, the rest will fall into place, because doing it, well, it's like running, right? You can read Born to Run and Eat and Run and all these other great books about running, but if you just lace up your shoes and take off, you'll make more progress than you ever will reading the book. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that was basically it. Read some books, start asking questions, and one thing led to the next.
Cool. Yeah. And then, I mean, that's the thing, is take it. And, even with the duplex, like you said, I think a lot of people are afraid that they're going to make a mistake. And I always tell people, you are going to make a mistake, but you got to get past the mistake. You're not moving forward until you first make the mistake. So just go ahead, make the mistake, try to make it not too big of a mistake. Don't get yourself way in over your head. Make some small mistake first, because the first thing that you do is probably going to make a mistake. It's not going to be, great. But then you learn, and then you grow, and you go past that. But so many people are I have to read, I have to study. I mean, even some of the guys I'm coaching, they're hesitant. They won't buy. And I'm just like, look, we've done the analysis. I can't guarantee, but at the end of the day, you're just going to have to make a deal. And it's, in 20 years, you won't regret it. I guarantee you, no matter whatever you buy, you'll be glad that you did it. But you got to take the first step. And I think a lot of people are afraid to do that.
Yeah, they get into analysis paralysis, and the reality is the perfect deal doesn't exist. It's not a thing. So you're never going to find the perfect deal, and that's okay. But you can make a deal and then make it much better by operating and, having a good team in place. And you just got to get out and do it.
And I think of it this way too. It's I've got maybe about $3 million worth of real estate now that's paid off. And if I had bought everything I bought for 10% higher, than I overpaid by 10% more than what, I would still be great, right? Yeah. Because I maybe paid maybe 1.5 million or 1.7 million for my real estate. So if you added another $170,000 onto there, not a big deal. You know what I mean? I still made a shit ton of money, right? not and that's just the equity value. That's not including the cash flow and the tax benefits and all that. So I think a lot of times, again, I'm not suggesting that people make bad deals, but you know what I mean? It's I think sometimes it's trying to optimize, get the best price, which obviously you should do to the best of your ability. But at the end of the day, it's more important to make the deal. Even if you paid 10% more, doesn't matter. So in the end, this it's not going to matter. So
yeah, getting wrapped around the overall purchase price is one thing, but I mean, and this is something I learned in Hawaii, because in Hawaii, where I'm stationed right now, my living room is probably, or my spare room right here is probably like a $3 million home on its own if it was, on a floating shack in the middle of the ocean. I mean, it's just ridiculous, the real estate prices out here. When we first moved here, there was this house that we were looking at, and it was like $785 was the listing price, and we offered full asking price, and we were like, yeah, we're gonna get this house, and someone was like $850,000 cash, and it was gone. I'm like, what in the world just happened? And that was exactly like every single week. I'm like, how are people doing this? And now a year later, that house is worth $1 million, and I'm like, that's how, because they didn't care, because they knew the market was going to go up 20% value, and they were able to afford it. And so people get wrapped around the asking price, but the reality is, if you, and I'm not saying by any way, don't take this as me advocating go spend more on money on real estate, but if the numbers make sense, if you know that you can hold the property without it being a sucking chest wound in your pocket, go for it. Like, what's the worst that can happen? As long as you know you can make the payments and it's not going to bankrupt you, you'll win something.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Too many people get caught up on prices and what you could have gotten. It's like buying something that you thought was a good deal and then seeing it on sale the next week at the store, and then you're like, oh, and you're so upset. I'm like, nah, if I thought it was a good deal, if I got the value I paid for it, I don't care what it is now. It reminds me of that, like, what's that story? There's like a parable in the Bible where Jesus pays, like, the guy complains because he only worked so many hours and he got paid the same as the dude. And it's like, this is the mentality that so many people have. And it's like, no. If you think something's a good deal, yeah. So
agreed. Yeah, you signed up for the job. Just, I don't know. That's everybody is like the minimum wage argument now. Everybody's like, I can't survive on this wage. Well, nobody forced you to get that job.
Right.
I don't know. And there's a whole lot that goes into that. I'm not saying that minimum wage could not stand a raise a little bit, but in fact, Missouri just voted for a raise, which means that my property value will go up in the next few years. So,
oh yeah, hey,
you can't.
Me too. I've got Missouri property.
Yeah, you can't go from an $8 an hour minimum wage to 12 without expecting your expenses to raise a little bit. So I'm ready for rents to start climbing for my property. So
exactly. But yeah, cool. Well, yeah. So it's kind of interesting too. Actually, the Rich Dad Poor Dad. That was one of the first books I read that got me thinking this way as well. Even though like a lot of people complain about that book, and there's definitely some things to complain about the book, but it's the mindset that it gives you, right? I remember reading the book and I was like, I was starting to invest in real estate already, but then I was like, what other assets are income producing, right? And so I was like, I was going through a list. I'm like, oh, like royalties from music. I can't really make any music or like write a script. So I'm like trying to come up with stuff, and I come up with gumball machines, right? So I bought all these gumball machines and put them out, and I made some money from the gumball machines. But it was true. It was an asset producing thing. But real estate is probably one of the best ones, aside from, I'd say, probably your, like, if you can create a business that generates income as well, that's always good as well. But
yeah, especially in online where you've got low overhead and you can stop trading hours for dollars and start trading like an hour of work for dollars for years, and there's so many opportunities out there.
Yeah. So what do you advise then for someone to get started on this if they want to, like, I mean, take the basic military person who is, enlisted, doesn't have a lot of, I forget what the, whatever pay grade, they don't have a lot of take home.
Yep.
How do they get started? What should they be doing? How should they be structuring their life to, what's the kind of the step-by-step, guidance you would give someone?
Yeah. So I'm actually writing a small ebook right now on, like, if I could go back, exactly what I would do from day one all the way through day 4 to build my 401k, also my capital for investing, and then as far as like learning and stuff. So it's supposed to be like hey, if you do X, you'll leave 4 years with this much. If you do Y, it'll have like a medium, intermediate, and extreme saving rate or whatever. So, that's my little, I've been working on this. Because I've met guys who left the service with over $100,000 saved, plus having maxed their 401k for 4 years. And I'm like, how did you do that? I had $1,000 to my name.
Yeah.
So I would say that, reading and learning and networking. So I would say go find a local real estate meetup would be one. I actually host one out here in Missouri. There's almost everywhere that I know of, there's a meetup once a week, once a month, whatever. And just go and start asking questions and meet these guys. And you might find someone who lets you ride around in the car with them while they look for deals, or someone who lets you show up, work for free labor on a house flip and get involved somehow. Because I'll tell you right now that if someone came to my house and said, hey, I know you're sending out direct mail letters. I know you don't have a lot of time. Let me handwrite them all for you for free. I would sit there and talk to the guy for hours.
Yep.
And so people like find something to bring value to whoever you're trying to meet, and then get out there and network. And then, the reality is, just increasing your savings rate. So, say you're a PFC or an E2 in the military and you get promoted to E3 as a $200 a month pay raise. Well, take that and put it somewhere and don't ever pretend you got it. And now that by the time you're in year 4, you're getting another $1,000 a month over what you were at the beginning, and you're saving it. And that's, $12,000 a year adds up, especially if you were saving to begin with. So I would just say, look at your expenses. Don't buy the fancy new car, buy a 3-year-old car. Don't get financing from the dealership, get financing from a bank, and be smart with those things. And then another one, and this is definitely a military specific because we're all terrible about this, but like, be a designated driver. That is a huge, so people go out and it is amazing what they will do at a bar because it's cool. And you're like, dude, you just blew your whole paycheck for what? You don't even remember. But if you're the DD, you go to the place, you can drive your car, your buddies will pay for your gas, you drive your car, they'll pay for your meal, and the restaurant will give you free, non-alcoholic drinks, and you get to watch all your friends be a fool and blow all their money, and you leave having made 40, 50 bucks on gas and dinner, and now you had just as much fun, and you remember having just as much fun.
Yeah.
And you get home and all your buddies are broke and you have saved all your money. And so that's like a tip that I'm the DDU generally when I go out with friends. And it's not that I don't enjoy alcohol. Don't get me wrong. I'm a Marine. I love beer, but oh my goodness, I was spending so much. It's insane. You look at your bar tab the next morning and you're like, did I lose my card? Was that really me? So yeah, that's a huge, huge life hack for military because we're terrible. It's like a contest of how much money I can waste on booze. In fact, I did a poll and 60% of the guys said one of the mistakes they regretted the most was how much they spent on booze. Wow. And I'm like, yeah, it's just funny. So anyway, I guess that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I really like the advice of going and finding a group, like a meetup group, and just getting connected in there, and then just finding people and just offering them value, right? I think a lot of people they never figure out that skill of how to offer someone value. But like being free labor, working in a house, a lot of people like they don't want to work for free. They're and it's such an important thing, I think, to because you're not really working for free. You're working in exchange for knowledge and for proximity, which is so important. But there's always anyone can use someone. I think the other mistake too, a lot of people do that are trying to follow your advice, is they go up to someone who's like, say, a real estate investor or a business owner or something, and they're like, hey, I want to work for you for free. What can I do for you? And that's giving them another job to come up with something for you to do. You have to come up with the thing, right? That's the thing. It's like you have to say, like, I like what you said. It's like, I see you're sending out mailers. I'll create them for you, or I'll sign them or write them for you. Where now if you come to me and say that, I'm going to say, oh yeah, awesome, great. But if you come to me and you're like, hey, what could I do? I want to help you in some way. It seems noble, it seems good, but I'm gonna be like, look, I don't have time. Like I don't have time to figure out something that you could do, right?
Yeah. So, yeah. What are you good at, right? Because I'm not going to hand you my bank account and say, here, balance my checkbook if you can't do math. Yeah, and it's funny. And the other one, if you flip it, so I was lucky enough to get paired up and do like a mentor-mentee session with you. Thanks, FinCon. Shout out. But had I walked up to you and said, hey, I really like your YouTube channel, will you mentor me? You would have been like, because it's the same concept, right? It's like, everybody and their mother wants to learn something from someone, but the person that you want to learn from is probably a busy individual and probably doesn't have time to take on everyone who wants to learn from him, even though they would like to. Like, it's not that they don't want to talk to you. It's just, I mean, they're busy. And so you gotta it all goes back to, being a good person and figuring out how you can add value to someone else.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah, I think I would say, guys, if you're watching this, hopefully David has convinced you that this is possible. That you can do this. You can start investing. It doesn't matter what your means are, even if they're low. There's ways to do creative financing, and this isn't one of those bullshit seminars where they tell you how to like knock on doors and find deed in lieu of foreclosure and all this kind of crap. I mean, you can do that, but honestly, like, just going and finding deals and just getting smart with how you make the deals and saving money. This is how people who actually do this and not just sell courses on this, do it. And David's a great example. So
I have a buddy, and we literally spend 2 or 3 hours every weekend or two, like, driving in circles talking about real estate and just looking at ugly houses. And we take a picture of the house, write the address down, and then we send him a letter. And that is like free marketing, free networking. We have more fun looking like idiots driving around in the car doing illegal U-turns than I know what to do with. And then we have a phone call like last week where they're like, "Hey, yeah, we want to sell our house." Oh, this might actually work, right? And now I'm closed a flip in Hawaii that there's some good stuff going on. And you don't have to spend a lot of money to do it. You can just go have fun, find a buddy, and drive in circles and listen to podcasts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you just got to believe. You got to believe this is possible. I think that's one thing too, is it's like, people don't believe this reality is like, hey, could you really actually make money? Could you really actually, yes, you can do this. You do. It does work. So, but I mean, because I remember I struggled with that belief when I bought my first fourplex. I was like, did this really, like, there's something fishy here. Like, am I really going to get more money than I'm paying here? Like, get rents that are more than what the mortgage is? How is this possible?
To be true.
Exactly. All right. So guys, check it out. Go to, let's see, where should I send them to? Your YouTube
from
channel.
Military to Millionaire.com, or the YouTube channel. I'm also on Instagram, whatever.
Okay. And I'll have the links all in this video for all David stuff, but definitely check it out. And if you've got a friend, I mean, maybe it doesn't apply to you, but again, I think you're going to find this useful if you're in the military, obviously. But if you are in a lot of the other sectors that are similar, maybe you have a low income job and you feel like you're stuck in it, and you feel like that's preventing you. I think you're going to find a lot of content that David produces that's going to work for you as well. And then if you've got a friend that's in the military or family member, send them to David's stuff. It could change their life for sure. So,
yeah, John, thank you very much for having me. It's been awesome catching up with you again.
All right, thanks a lot, David. Take care, man.
Yeah, brother.